As Marqueta mentioned, this is the first time that we've had an event on Article 3, retained mines. Perhaps it's not the most engaging of topics. We have clearance, we have victim assistance, we have universalization. So I think that Article 3 doesn't get its credit, the credit that it should. So I'm going to start with a short presentation, and then I'll hand it over to Steve for follow-up and considerations from the International Campaign to Ban Landmines and civil society. The convention, in the end, has the purpose of ending the suffering and casualties caused by anti-personnel mines, and it does so through a number of key objectives. One is universalizing the provisions of the convention, destroying stockpiles, supporting victims, and addressing mined areas under a state's party's jurisdiction or control. And of course, there are a lot of measures that are in the convention to support the implementation. This wasn't going to magically happen, but the drafters, including Steve here, they sat down and said, well, what needs to be in place for this to happen? So there are other articles concerning cooperation assistance, national implementation measures, transparency, and implementation support. So today, I just want to focus my presentation on Article 3, but it cannot be divided from stockpiles. Article 4 and Article 3, in a way, come together. So just click away, Hatim. Yeah. So under Article 1.2, a state party's obligation is to destroy all anti-personnel mines in accordance with the provisions of the convention. Article 4 on stockpile destruction, a state is required to destroy all its stockpile mines in a period of 4 years after entry into force for that state party of the convention. And finally, under Article 3, a state is, of course, allowed to retain a certain number of mines for a certain number of purposes, but the amount of such mines shall not exceed the number absolutely necessary for those purposes. So under Article 7, there's a number of issues that states must report on. The type and quantity of these mines retained, the institution authorized by the state to retain or transfer anti-personnel mines, and some of the technical characteristics, including, as you see, the dimension, fusing, explosive content, metallic content, color photographs, and other information which may facilitate mine clearance. So this is your Article 7 report. However, the convention, of course, was drafted in 1997, so a lot of things have changed. You can just think, so the states parties make a number of decisions on how to implement the convention, and the main decisions have come out of the review conferences from Nairobi to Cartagena to Maputo to Oslo, and now, of course, we're on the road to the Siem Reap summit. So some of these decisions on reporting were that states, I think there's one more. Nope, go back. There was a report on the use of retained mines and the results of such use. Provide information on the plans requiring the retention of mines. Regularly review the number of anti-personnel mines retained to ensure that they constitute the minimum number absolutely necessary. Destroy all those exceeding that number. Explore alternatives to using live anti-personnel mines, and explain any increase or decrease in the number of retained anti-personnel mines. So these are the decisions on reporting that have been made by the different review conference. So this is a cut and paste from the Nairobi Action Plan, the Cartagena Action Plan, the Maputo Action Plan, as well as the Oslo Action Plan from 2019. Now what will become of the road to Siem Reap and the Siem Reap Action Plan and how this will be captured is yet to be seen. But for the last 4 years, we've seen in 2019, 70 states parties retaining 162,000 anti-personnel mines, and click again. And today, at this present moment, we want to hear from other states on the road to Siem Reap. But we have 62 states parties retaining a total of 121,258 mines. Now, there's a lot of different states, of course. We have some states that retain 9 anti-personnel mines, others that retain 4,000, others that retain over 10,000. So it's a very different group of states. Again, this is allowed, permitted under the convention to retain mines. We see underreporting by states with Article 3 mines. The biggest underreporting in the convention's articles are on Article 9 and Article 3 that we see. So Article 3 is very underreported. We see gaps in reporting. For example, a state might have reported their retained mines 5 years ago, but haven't reported again to date. So we don't know what the status is of those Article 3 mines. There are some states that retain the same number of mines every year. And again, retaining mines is allowed by the states parties, but for the permitted use. And then there's a lack of reporting on the actual use and plans for use of anti-personnel mines. And finally, there's a very minimal number of states reporting on exploring alternatives to the use of anti-personnel mines. Now, everything might be going very well in the state, and there might be plans for the use and use, but they're just not reported in Article 7. So what we're looking is for states to report more actively on the use of Article 3 mines and the status of these Article 3 mines. So finally, we're very, very close to Siem Reap. We've just finished the last intersessional before Siem Reap. And so our hope is that the reporting increases. The reporting, of course, deadline is 30th of April, but as a state party, your deadline is as soon as possible. Even if you miss the 30th of April deadline, we welcome information from states on the status of their Article 3 retained mines. And so that, I think, is where I'll leave it, unless, looking at Sophie, if she has anything to add on the, but, so that's the situation in terms of Article 3 mines, and where we'd like to go is to hear from states that haven't reported for some time. We collect information, and you'll see in the document that the President submitted to the intersessional meetings, there's a list of states and those that have reported and those that have not reported for some time. So you can see where your state is located on that list, and please do reach out to us if you need any support in reporting on your Article 3 mines. So I'll leave it there. So thank you very much, and I'll hand it over to Steve.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos, and thank the organizers and supporters of this event. When I first was asked to participate, I sort of had to ask, are you sure you mean Article 3? Isn't some other article that you want to spend a full day on? But I'm very glad that the decision was made and people have gone forward and that we have such a good crowd here today. Let me start with a simple proposition. The minimum number of retained mines absolutely necessary is 0. 0. This is the view of the ICBL. This is the view of many states parties, most states parties, and it has been that way from the beginning. The subject of whether you needed to retain mines for training and research and detection purposes was hotly debated during the negotiations back in 1997 and in previous years as well. It wasn't exactly controversial, but it was certainly debated quite strongly with very strong views on both sides of the issue. The reason that the ICBL and many states parties at the time they who are still working their way towards being states parties, opposed the notion of retaining mines. There were many reasons for it. I'm going to run through some of those now. They still hold today. They were talked about 25 plus years ago, but they have not gone away, these reasons. And they kind of break down in a number of different ways. Negatives, potential negatives, dangers. One of the fundamental reasons why we say 0 is the correct number is because the act of retaining mines upsets the effort to stigmatize the weapons. It upsets the notion of a comprehensive ban on anti-personnel mines. When you talk to the general public about this, they don't understand the notion of retaining mines. When you talk to reporters about this, they don't understand. You say you have a comprehensive ban, you make a big deal out of how comprehensive it is, and then you say, oh, but more than 60 countries still have in their stockpiles more than 120,000 anti-personnel mines. Makes no sense. I tell my daughter this, and she says, "You kidding? I thought you banned these weapons." But we still have the exception. There are plenty of potential dangers as well. Of course, the worst one being that many states are retaining operationally significant numbers of anti-personnel mines. You don't want to think that they might ever use them, but of course that danger is there. And there have been times in the history of this convention that we have wondered if mines that were reported as retained for training were used for other purposes. There, of course, are dangers of leakage or retained mines being captured or stolen. The issue that Juan Carlos raised is a really significant one of there being no consumption of retained mines by many states parties, including some who have never used their retained mines for the permitted purposes. They have just sat there in the stockpiles. Why are those called retained mines? They look like stockpiled mines to me. Then there's the issue, on the other dangers, is the reporting gaps. Because of these many concerns about retaining mines, there were safeguards built in. That's why we have this extensive reporting requirements. It's unusual to have that detailed a number of requirements for reporting on these mines. And that reporting hasn't been carried out very well. So you don't really know what the mines are being for, or if they're being used for anything. Then there are these dangers. There's the danger to the norm, to the stigma. There's these actual dangers of use or theft. Apart from all of that, there's the big question, which I think is going to be the focus of this day. Is there a need? Is there really a need for retaining live anti-personnel mines for the purposes that have been identified? If it was true in 1997, which we doubted very much, is it still true today after all the research and development that have been undertaken in those decades? I think that it's going to be hard to convince me and many other people that there is an absolute need to have live mines for training or for other purposes that the convention identifies. And it needs to be thought through very deeply because it hasn't worked out terribly well. And the absolute need means it has to be more important than the dangers and the potential dangers of retaining anti-personnel mines. You have to make that equation decision of which is more important, the stigma and the potential dangers of use and other things, or whatever benefits you get from the permitted purposes. I'll stop there. I say all this hoping not to be rude in any way to those of you who are actively engaged in using retained mines. But it is something that needs to be examined and critically appraised. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you. I think that's the main question. You know, it's the right for states parties to retain mines, but do we need to retain mines is a good question. Now, I thought we have some time, so I thought I'd see if anyone would like to engage in this first bit of, without going too far, because we have some sessions on mines, but if anyone has questions on reporting and on anything Steve has mentioned, we have 15 minutes to entertain any questions. So if you do, please raise your nameplate. OK, Monsieur l'ambassadeur de Sénégal.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je salue tous les collègues. Vous savez que mon pays, le Sénégal, est très engagé pour la Convention. J'étais en train de dire que le Sénégal est très engagé dans la Convention et pour son universalisation et l'éradication totale des mines dans le monde. Donc après les signatures, ratifications et l'application depuis 1999, nous avons suivi tout le processus de mise en place d'une commission nationale, d'un centre national d'action anti-mine, d'élaboration d'une stratégie, des opérations de déminage, avec le soutien très important, très consistant, je le redis encore, je les remercie, de l'Union européenne, qui a vraiment permis au Sénégal de dépolluer, en tout cas plus de la moitié de ces terres contaminées. Nous continuons ces opérations avec tous les autres aspects tous les autres composants de la Convention, l'éducation au risque, l'assistance aux victimes de plaidoyer. Nous n'avions pas de stock, mais quand même, nous bénéficions un peu de cet article 3. Effectivement, annuellement, je crois, nous déclarons dans notre rapport annuel qu'il y a un petit stock de 50 mines antipersonnelles qui sont utilisées dans le cadre des formations de la recherche. Donc le Sénégal est un pays qui pourrait bénéficier en tout cas des nouvelles initiatives que nous voulons discuter aujourd'hui pour complètement ne plus utiliser les mines antipersonnelles, même pour la recherche et la formation, et puis se tourner vers d'autres options. Donc qu'est-ce que, en tout cas, les initiateurs de ce projet de ce matin peuvent faire avec le Sénégal pour que le Sénégal... Parce que nous, au-delà même de l'éradication des mines sur notre sol, nous avons une ambition régionale de faire en sorte que tous nos pays voisins, tous les pays de la CEDEAO, tous les pays de l'Afrique n'utilisent plus les mines antipersonnelles. Donc nous sommes dans une dynamique d'utiliser toutes les nouvelles options pour ne plus utiliser les mines antipersonnelles. Et je crois que cela satisfera notre ami de ICBL.
Thank you very much, Senegal. That's, I guess, music to the convention's ears to hear that, because it's great, and that's why we're here to look at these alternatives. So I'll give the floor to Gambia. Merci.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to state that the Republic of the Gambia is proud to be a state party to the anti-personnel mine. And the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention, it's a very good foundation that is based on transparency and mutual accountability. So in this regard, the Republic of the Gambia believes that these founding and guiding principles continue to remain dynamic to the full and complete implementation of the convention. In this respect, the Republic of the Gambia wishes to state that we are going to be fully compliant with what the convention seeks to achieve, which is the complete banning and, of course, to us, the use of anti-personnel mines. So the Gambia ratified the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention Treaty in 2003. However, it did not conduct any compliance activity until 2017. This is because of the previous regime that existed, which was mostly dictatorial, and so as such, we might not expect full compliance. But with the advent of the third president, under the government of Adama Barrow, the Gambia decided to ratify this convention. And it's also important to inform this gathering that the Gambia has destroyed the mines that it had in its possession, which is VS-50, and they amounted to about 100 of them, and T-72B AP mines, 33 of them. So for us, we would support the idea, and again, I'll support what my brother, the ambassador from Senegal, states, that there are other alternatives we could use. Technology has made it possible. We don't need to use real AP mines to conduct trainings. We can use technology to help us achieve the goal of Article 3. If you want to retain them, you use what technology can provide you to be able to conduct your training, to improvise. As such, we don't need to provide states the opportunity to have real landmines. You do not know who would come in and take over the administration of that country and decide to do otherwise. So I think we need to explore other means and opportunity in conducting training regarding anti-personnel mines. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Gambia. Would anyone else like to take the floor? I see Zimbabwe.
Thank you. At least we agree that yes, maybe we need some other alternatives other than using the live mines. As Zimbabwe, we destroyed our stockpiles in 2001, over 3,000, and retained about 500. Then from the 500, we have been using for training, and then we only destroyed about 50. And then we realized that for now we didn't have any alternative way of training our deminers. Remember, our deminers are the military. Only the military use these mines retained for training. And we don't use all the 400 at a time. We have the military ammunition technicians. We inspect the conditions of these mines each and every time we do the training. And we realized the duration we had given ourselves, say about the 8 years extension we had. If we were destroying every year, by now we'll be remaining with nothing to train. And these people, normally you don't want to train a soldier with a net when he's going to meet the really life situation. So that's why we are training them with live mines, because they are going to meet live mines in the field. Yes, it can be argued, but we welcome all the other alternatives. Yes, technology. We also welcome the technologies, and for the safety of our retained mines, they are very, very safe. As I said, the military, where they are stored. And as Zimbabwe, we have never been in breach of the convention. We abide by the convention. We have never used the convention in any other campaigns we have done. We have never touched the retained mines. And it remains the policy of the government that we are not going to be in breach of of the convention. So we were looking, for example, say we were saying our deadline was 2025. If we're going to meet that deadline, we're saying we complete the training in, say, March. And then after the training for that year, when we are sure that we are going to meet our deadline, we destroy all the remaining stocks. That's the position as it is now. But we are not against other alternatives. No, we welcome other alternatives. That's why maybe we are here to share ideas and get views from others. That's our position.
Thank you very much, Colonel Kuben. I think that's just what we're going to hear from today, is these alternatives, how closely they mimic what you are training with today. So now I'd like to give the floor to Benin.
Merci, bonjour, merci de me donner la parole. Et donc, le Bénin fait partie des 64 pays qui a la signature a choisi l'option de garder des mines pour des besoins de formation. Nous avons gardé 16 mines antipersonnelles et une quinzaine de mines anti-chars pour les besoins de formation. Mais effectivement, l'interrogation que M. Steve a posée tout à l'heure, elle est très pertinente. Parce que nous nous sommes posé la même question. A-t-on besoin des mines vivantes pour la formation? La réponse que nous avons trouvée, elle est non. Surtout que depuis 2002, le Bénin abrite un centre de déminage qui est le CPADD. Et depuis 20 ans, il faut avouer que les mines que nous avons retenues pour les besoins de la formation, nous ne les avons jamais utilisées pour ces besoins de formation. À un moment donné, nous les avons stockées avec notre dépôt de munitions obsolètes pour la destruction qui a commencé avec la coopération internationale de MAG International. Voilà. Et comme je vous ai dit hier, le 1er mai 2023, un accident pyrotechnique a eu lieu, tout le dépôt a sauté, et avec la destruction de tout le dépôt, y compris les mines antipersonnelles. Donc, nous voulions nous en débarrasser. Bonne et mauvaise nouvelle, le dépôt a sauté, on n'en a plus. Donc, aujourd'hui, le Bénin n'est plus partie des 64 États qui retiennent des mines antipersonnelles pour des besoins de formation. Et nous n'en voulons plus être partie. C'est vrai que nous avons des déficits en termes de rapportage, mais nous allons nous mettre à jour pour que l'unité de soutien soit aux besoins de ces informations. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. That's, well, as you said, good and bad news. But as soon as we can get that report to take Benin off the list, that'd be fantastic. I see Côte d'Ivoire, s'il vous plaît.
Ok, je tiens à remercier, à vous dire merci pour l'opportunité que vous me donnez. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, distingués délégations, je voulais m'adresser au nom de la Côte d'Ivoire en ce qui concerne la situation que nous vivons dans le monde. Aujourd'hui, nous abordons une question qui est vraiment cruciale et je pense que M. Steve a vraiment donné la réponse, a déjà donné la réponse à ce que nous recherchons. Il faut savoir que c'est un engin qui est vraiment dangereux. Et quand on parle de dangerosité, ce n'est pas seulement pour les personnes qui ne maîtrisent pas cet engin-là, mais c'est même les acteurs. Aujourd'hui, lorsque nous nous rassemblons pour parler des mines antipersonnelles, il y a un point qu'on ne fait pas très souvent, c'est que même ceux qui sont en charge même du déminage sont aussi victimes de ces mines. Et au-delà même de ceux qui sont en charge aussi du stock aussi sont victimes de ces mines. Et le Bénin a parlé tout à l'heure d'une explosion d'un magasin qui abritait les mines, qui est parti en feu, mais peut-être pour le respect des âmes des personnes qui sont parties, n'a pas voulu signifier qu'il y a eu des morts aussi qui ont été dans cette explosion-là. Donc c'est pour dire que la Côte d'Ivoire est devenue État partie en 2000. Et nous avons pris l'engagement de véritablement détruire tous nos stocks de mines. Aujourd'hui, pour cette activité. Je pense qu'il serait mieux d'utiliser d'autres alternatives parce que dans les mines que nous stockons généralement pour les recherches, l'objectif c'est de retrouver l'explosif qui se trouve à l'intérieur de la mine. Et je pense qu'il y a beaucoup d'options que nous pouvons peut-être suivre pour pouvoir mener ces genres de recherche. Donc, nous appelons, comme on l'a déjà fait hier dans l'adresse que nous avons fait au cours du séminaire, à un renforcement de la coopération et de l'assistance. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. And now I would like to give the floor to Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Thank you, Mr. Juan. Bosnia and Herzegovina don't have stockpiles. We destroyed our mines a long time ago and report of that. Also, we agree that we don't need mines for the training of the deminers or showing the mines in the mine risk education area training. But I have one simple question, how to train the dog and how to test the dog, because we are in the Bosnia and Herzegovina every 6 months testing the dogs. And we have that mines, not live mines, mines without fuses, but still it's in the soil, and we are testing the dogs on that polygons. How to do that or alternative of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll hear from I don't know if you want to, but I think we'll hear from an expert from NPA later on about training of the mines, training of the dogs, not training of the mines.
Yes, no, not training of the mines. We have great dog center in Bosnia and Herzegovina,
Yes.
NPA. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll hear from NPA this afternoon and alternatives. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tarek. And now I'd like to give the floor to Mali.
Merci bien, et bonjour tout le monde. Au nom du Mali, il est important de signifier que nous avons adhéré aux différents instruments concernant la Convention sur l'interdiction et l'emploi des mines. Et il y a eu l'instrument de ratification qui a été déposé le 3 décembre 1997. En ce sens, nous avons pris des dispositions pour rendre cette ordonnance-là effective. Le Mali, dans son rapport de cette année, il a été mentionné, c'est disponible sur le site de la Convention que nous avons eue. Nous disposons effectivement des mines antipersonnelles pour des fins d'instruction d'une certaine quantité. Et puis évidemment, depuis que ces mines ont été conservées pour des fins d'instruction, malheureusement, nous ne les utilisons pas. Nous ne les utilisons pas parce que nous avons pu trouver d'autres modalités pratiques pour pouvoir mener l'instruction au niveau des unités. Tous nos remerciements également au CPATD avec qui nous avons collaboré pendant une période donnée. Nous avons pu quand même mettre en place des mines inertes ou des mines à maquette pour pouvoir instruire efficacement dans les centres de formation. Donc, à mon avis, il faudra que nous puissions quand même avoir un regard avec acuité sur les stockages de ces mines-là. Parce que je me dis que les mêmes causes produisent les mêmes effets dans les mêmes circonstances par moment. C'est le cas que nous avons constitué avec les ALPC dans nos différents pays. Il y avait des excédents, des excédents, des stocks d'armes et de munitions qui n'étaient pas utilisés par les États. À la longue, ces stocks d'armes et de munitions se sont retrouvés entre des mains des personnes malveillantes ou entre des mains des bandits et qu'ils les ont utilisés contre les populations ou contre le gouvernement. Ça peut arriver également avec des stocks de mines. Parce que dans le Sahel, aujourd'hui, dans la région ouest africaine, nous sommes confrontés plutôt à la problématique des engins explosifs improvisés. C'est des composantes qui sont utilisées pour les fabriquer. Et si ces mines qui sont conservées pour des fins d'instruction, pour une certaine quantité, les groupes armés non étatiques peuvent se procurer de ces stocks-là et puis continuer à créer des engins, à fabriquer des engins explosifs ou bien à les utiliser pour d'autres fins contre les populations. Donc il faut vraiment, la question mérite d'être posée en matière de conservation et en matière de stockage. Pourquoi je le dis? Parce que ça peut sortir des magasins et se retrouver entre des mains des personnes malveillantes. Donc s'il y a des possibilités de pouvoir utiliser d'autres matériels ou de pouvoir utiliser d'autres mines qui ne sont pas des mines réelles, en effet d'instruction, je pense que c'est des alternatives qui sont les bienvenues. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mali, and I'm also looking forward to hearing about the alternatives this afternoon. If we're putting Teslas in space, there must be a way to find alternatives that are suitable for us. So I'd like to give the floor to Peru.
Buenos días. En primer lugar, quisiera agradecer a la Unidad de Apoyo a la Implementación por la invitación a este evento. Y el Perú desde el año 1999 es Estado parte y la primera obligación que cumplimos fue con la destrucción de nuestras existencias. Se destruyeron aproximadamente 500.000 minas antipersonal. Sin embargo, tenemos la obligación de la limpieza de nuestro territorio, en el cual estamos en ese esfuerzo que esperamos cumplirlo para el año 29, por lo cual hemos solicitado una extensión, una prórroga. Y haremos los mayores esfuerzos. Estamos seguros que para este año vamos a... En consideración a ello, nosotros tenemos una escuela de desminado, en la cual fundamentalmente se hacen cursos de reentrenamiento al personal que va a participar en las operaciones de desminado que he mencionado. Y efectivamente, coincido con los estados que me han antecedido de que estas minas se utilizan pues para estos cursos de reentrenamiento, ¿no? Nosotros tenemos 400 minas en existencia, lo cual nos parece realmente excesivo. Estamos en un proceso de destruir gran parte de estas minas y llegar, pues, coincidimos también llegar al objetivo de 0 minas antipersonales en existencias. Fundamentalmente, recurriríamos a la tecnología y a este evento para poder reemplazar estas minas activas por minas de entrenamiento. Adicionalmente a eso también coincidimos, nosotros tenemos perros desminadores y también utilizar minas para permitir el entrenamiento de estos canes, ¿no? Eso es lo que tendría que informar en relación a la situación del Perú. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Cornel Espinosa. Is there anyone else that would like to take the floor on this specific matter? If that's not the case, I want to thank the speaker, those who took the floor, and then maybe hand it to you, Steve, for some final remarks.
Well, I have to say, I think we're off to a great start. I like hearing the word 0. I like hearing over and again the recognition that there must be alternatives and alternatives should be used, and that retaining mine is not something that states parties want to do. So I appreciate all the interventions that we've had so far, and I think we've already shown this is going to be a very useful day.
Thank you very much, Steve. So I'd like to, I guess we will move on to our next agenda item. Thank you very much, Steve, for joining us, and I'll invite Hans to come and join us for our next session that has to do exactly with the dangers that everyone was speaking about concerning the storage and improper management systems. Thank you so much, Steve.